video is the result of a public commitment I made at the end of the last year. So I will be posting more videos of this type. This is not a traditional book review, it's rather a way of showing how a book helped me achieve or realize something. And when it comes to this particular book, I was surprised to discover that some of the things I was already doing on an unconscious level. Being fully aware of them can help you shape the person you strive to be. Now, the problem with me is that I tend to make long introductions. So when I came across another book on change, I was a bit skeptical. Why? Because there are plenty of books on change. I'm not saying they are not helpful. I, for instance, like James Clear's book Atomic Habits. The book helped me forge 2 good habits, one of which has become a constant in my life, whereas the second I had to quit for a while. It had to do with a subscription fee that hadn't been paid on time. Once I got the app running again, it wasn't that easy to get the habit back into my life, by the way. If I'm skeptical about books on change, what made me buy the book? Adam Grant. I had read his book Rethink and I was under its spell. I still think it is a great book, a must-read. So here at the top right-hand corner of the page, there was one word written, engrossing, and below Adam Grant's name. So I bought the book in order to get engrossed. So let's get to the point. Katie Milkman titled her book How to Change. The subtitle is very appealing. The science of getting to where you want to be. Not magic, but science. So something backed by research. This is a must-read indeed. I'm a bit sick and tired of the predominance of magical thinking promoters, which isn't backed by research. I can see the logic behind the person already ready for a change, getting this nudge by starting believing that the whole universe conspires for them to succeed. The point is, however, that the person has already set their mind to it. But what to do with the rest of us? The ones who, no matter how hard they believe that thoughts are material, still don't get to follow through on their intentions. So, let's say I want to lose weight. I can think a lot about it and put all the responsibility on the universe. But I know it won't get me anywhere. And it refers to all our goals and intentions to change. What does Katie Milkman have to say on this? She's not a magical thinker. She's one of us who has struggled, but whose mindset of an engineer made her look into the issue and see what can be done to change for the better and, if possible, for good, more or less. What I like about this book is that it wasn't love at first sight. What do I mean? The first chapter is about fresh starts, and when I began reading it, I was like, come on, not again. Now, who hasn't told themselves, starting with Monday, start jogging in the morning? I tried it, it didn't work. But Katie Milkman tells us something else, and namely that timing can be very important when it comes to following through on our goals. Research has shown that people who decide to have a fresh start on a date which is significant to them or which is culturally significant, like New Year, for example, are likelier to stick to the new behavior. The motivation seems to get an extra boost, while the behavior change may appear more appealing to them. When I saw the list of possible fresh starts, I had a revelation. Let me first tell you what they are. Meaningful life events, health scare, move to a new town, and New Year, anniversaries, birthdays, a new week, a new month. Now, I had a health scare and that made me introduce a change in my behavior, which has become a habit ever since, with minor deviations, of course. I'm perfect in my imperfection. But then it would be quite unproductive to wait for a health scare in order to change. I also remembered that when I moved to Venice to do my studies there, I had a kind of fresh start. What fresh starts do, they help create this idea that you start from a blank slate, as if those old bad habits don't exist. So when I thought better, I came to see that having a fresh start is actually a good idea. I chose mine, New Year of 2023. Believe it or not, I'm already reaping some very small rewards. I started, and we shall see by the end of 2023 if I can stick to my changes. By the way, my word of 2023 is change, something I have always internally resisted. Okay, so we've got a fresh start, but the change we wanted so badly to embrace still hasn't turned into a habit. I've already mentioned the Mondays that were supposed to turn me into a healthy eater and help me lose weight. Katie Milkman totally relates to that, and she says that there are some obstacles that get on our way to change. Now, what are those obstacles? Impulsivity, procrastination, forgetfulness, laziness, confidence, and conformity. And I recognized my good old friends nudging me to oppose any change in my life. The first one mentioned in the book is impulsivity. While reading, I remembered Tim Urban's famous TED Talk Inside the Mind of the Monster Procrastinator and his notorious instant gratification monkey. Impulsivity is what makes us want the rewards here and now, without putting much effort to get them. But we do know, in order for our brain to make the necessary neural connections, the behavior should be repeated over and over again, and we also know that the rewards are usually reaped after a while. Remember Aesop's fable, The Fox and the Grapes. What did the fox do in the end? He gave up. So the moral is there are many who pretend to despise and belittle that which is beyond their reach. What seems to be beyond our reach actually can be achieved, but it requires an extra effort from our part. Now, when we say this Monday I'm going to start running, I'll run 10 kilometers. What we usually do is overestimate our willpower. So morning comes, and the alarm goes off, and what does our brain do? Looks for instantly gratifying rewards. Wow, it's so nice to stay in bed. It's warm, and then there's tomorrow, next Monday. We end up favoring short-term rewards over larger, long-term rewards. Let's also look at the set goal of running 10 kilometers. First, the distance is a blatant overestimation of our willpower, particularly if we haven't run before. Then let's consider the effort I should make to put on my sportswear, then go out and then start running. It is rather unsatisfying. So here now I'm safe in my warm bed, whereas the rewards of running in the morning are so far away, so beyond my reach. The good news is that we can tame our instant gratification monkey. But how? Katie Milkman suggests two ways: temptation bundling and gamification. From what I've tried, temptation bundling works for me very well, while gamification not so much. What does this mean? Temptation bundling is when you pair a difficult task that you want to make part of your daily routine, like running, for example, with something you really enjoy doing. For example, you listen to your favorite podcast or audiobook only when running. I did something similar. So I have an Instagram account, and believe it or not, it's rather challenging to create content. So I paired my going to my favorite cafe and having a cup of cappuccino with creating content. It's not necessary to go to the cafe all the time, yet it has turned eventually into a cue, because every time I get there, I immediately think about what I could do to improve my Instagram account. Notice how pairing two tasks works. One should be less cognitively demanding than the other. Definitely having a cup of cappuccino is less cognitively demanding. When it comes to gamification, it's not my cup of tea. But I do know that some people find it rewarding to add symbolic game-like rewards while pursuing a difficult task. The main point here is that the person should consciously choose to play the game. If it is imposed, then it's not helping in any way. On the contrary, it creates resistance to change. The second barrier to change is procrastination. What is to be done? Set a deadline. Research has shown that it is better when the deadline is set by somebody else. I can totally relate to this. I remember giving my students the possibility to choose their own deadlines. What was the result? All ended up unhappy. But the moment the deadline is set, they somehow become more organized. By the way, the same is valid about me. I'm more likely to follow through on the intention of doing something if the deadline was set beforehand by somebody else. Modern times don't help fight procrastination. They provided us with so many distractions. My biggest distraction at present is Harry and Meghan's ongoing drama. I'm sick and tired of it, yet I get distracted when something pops up. But I'm trying to resist that. I'm fighting that. Katie Milkman mentions the carrot and stick approach to help us fight procrastination. We often think of more carrots, totally ignoring the benefits of sticks. Sometimes handcuffing ourselves can help us embrace change more easily and make it last. So we can impose either soft or hard restrictions on ourselves. I think hard restrictions work best. For example, if I don't write the novel I have always wanted to write, I'll give away all my savings, and this pledge can be made officially and somebody will monitor my progress. However, I prefer soft penalties. I still don't have enough courage or maybe self-confidence to opt for a hard penalty. What soft penalties I established? For example, I announce my goals publicly. If I don't fulfill them, I suffer humiliation. This is because of cognitive dissonance. So we humans are wired to feel utterly uncomfortable when our actions are not aligned with our words. This is a commitment device which I willingly pledge to fulfill. Now let's get to the third obstacle, what we can do to tackle it. I'm afraid we are a bit forgetful. Sometimes we miss to embrace a change fully simply because we forget to stick to the new behavior. What is to be done then? Create reminder systems. Katie Milkman suggests the notion of implementation intention. So make a plan to achieve your goal and link it to a cue. The more unusual the cue, the better. For example, you want to start meditating and it's quite challenging to start, but you like to light candles in the evening. Make the process of lighting the candles the cue for your meditation practice. Remember my favorite cafe. Whenever I pass it, I remember I should see what content I could create for my Instagram account. So it has turned into a cue. Another important cause of why we forget is that sometimes we set too many goals at the same time. Remember, we tend to overestimate our willpower, particularly at the beginning. So what we should do is to set one, maximum two goals at a time and pursue them. We should also break that bigger goal into smaller actions, and we should be very specific about what exactly we would do. A cue-based planning is according to the following model. When this happens, I will do this. Let's say my goal is to visit Paris this summer. This is a big goal which can't be achieved today. But my cue-based planning should be like, when I get my bonus, I'll set aside money for my trip. When I have gathered half of the sum, I'll buy the tickets, and so on. Another piece of advice is to visualize the realization of our big goal. We should ask ourselves the following questions when breaking the goal into smaller steps. How will I do it? When will I do it? Where will I do it? It is also a great idea to create a checklist so that it's easier for us to track the realization of our big goal and we don't end up forgetting. Another benefit of making such plans is that it requires time and effort from us. So our brain gets the signal that this goal is truly important and will make sure to safely store it in our memory set so that we don't forget. The fourth obstacle is laziness. Is there a way we can make laziness work for us and not against us? There is. We can take the path of least resistance by creating a shortcut to the realization of our goal. It will help us save energy and that will make our brain very happy. By the way, we could define laziness as our energy saver. To a certain extent, the behaviors that have already turned into habits are a result of our laziness or tendency to save energy. It's good to remember that when developing a habit, we should be flexible. I, for example, allow myself not to do something on certain occasions and then don't consider myself a failure. This doesn't result in abandoning my goal altogether. So I have the habit of writing in the evening. I was even flexible when it comes to the amount of writing. Sometimes it can be 2 pages, sometimes just a sentence or even 1 word. I also have this freedom of not writing anything when I'm away either for work or travel. When I'm back, I get back to writing. Or when it comes to running, it's a good idea to allow yourself not to run when it is raining, for example. Sometimes this flexibility, this freedom of choice makes you run even if it rains outside. Try and you'll see it yourselves. Okay, now we've got to confidence, or I would say lack of confidence, as another obstacle to change. And I do know that although sometimes at the very beginning we might overestimate our willpower, eventually we become plagued by insecurities. Out of nowhere, or at least this is how it seems to be, the belief that we can't change appears. Research has proven that our beliefs can influence our physiology and our motivation. We end up self-doubting. People close to us can see our struggles and wanting to support us will most probably offer encouraging pieces of advice. You can do it, I know. But the reverse can happen. We seem to get the confirmation that we can't succeed. So it's absolutely crucial not to offer advice unless asked. By the way, this is something I struggle with because in my desire to help others, I tend to give advice. And although people thank me for that, I'm working on this. Now my strategy is to ask questions. This is the question you should ask yourselves when you have self-doubts. What advice would I give to a person I care about in a similar situation? Katie Milkman suggests organizing an advice club where people create, this safe space that will enable them to share their struggles and how they overcome them. If they, for example, haven't overcome those struggles, they know they can consult the others on the issue. Finally, the last obstacle is conformity. There seems to be nothing more horrible than being rejected as part of the herd. We are social creatures in the end. We are programmed to be socially connected. It's absolutely fantastic when we are in good company, when we seek to change. Our peers seem to have a great impact on our achievements. Moreover, it's good to copy-paste the hacks of the people who inspire us. It turns out that we are more influenced by observation than advice. So there's truth to tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. We could be socially influenced in a positive way. It is important, however, not to have stark differences between overachievers and those in need of a nudge. If the gap is too big, everybody ends up disengaged. Sometimes in our desire to belong to a group, we might conform to something that is not good for us. So, whenever you feel that the social influence makes you feel nervous, slow down, avoid interacting with that person. Social influence should inspire you, not frighten and demoralize you. This is what I wanted to say in this video. I do know that change is difficult, but definitely not beyond our reach. If we follow through on our intention to change, I think Katie Milkman's suggestions can be of great help on our way to change.